First contact and conflict. The massive Zirconian warship loomed over the small blue-green planet, its metallic hull gleaming in the light of the system's yellow sun. On the bridge, Supreme Commander Vextor surveyed the primitive world with disdain, his four eyes narrowing as he considered how easily this backwater colony would fall to the might of the Zirconian Empire. Status report. Vextor growled, his gravelly voice echoing through the command center. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Zandera, stepped forward with a crisp salute. "My lord, our initial scans show a pre-FTL civilization with rudimentary space capabilities. They appear to have small orbital stations and a handful of vessels capable of interplanetary travel within their system. No sign of energy weapons or advanced shielding technology." Vextor's lipless mouth curled into what passed for a smile among his species. "Excellent. This conquest will be swift. Prepare the invasion force." As the Zirconian ship began deploying its dropships, alarms blared throughout the United Earth Defense Command's headquarters buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. General Sarah Chen burst into the war room, her eyes scanning the holographic displays showing the alien vessel in orbit. "What's the situation?" she demanded, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. Colonel James Rodriguez, her chief of operations, looked up from his console. "Ma'am, we've got a massive alien ship in high orbit. They're launching what appear to be troop transports. Intel suggests they're heading for major population centers." Chen's jaw tightened. "So much for a peaceful first contact. What's our response time?" "Ground-based defenses are online and tracking the incoming bogies," Rodriguez replied. "Orbital platforms are spinning up their railguns, but we don't know if they'll be effective against their tech. As for our own ships," he hesitated. "Spit it out, Colonel," Chen snapped. "We've only got a handful of vessels with any combat capability, General. The rest are scientific or exploratory. We're severely outgunned." Chen nodded grimly. "Then we'll have to make do with what we have. Alert all military installations worldwide. I want every soldier, every weapon, every scrap of tech we've got ready to repel this invasion. And get me a direct line to the President. She needs to know we're at war." As Chen coordinated Earth's defenses, the first Zirconian dropships pierced the atmosphere, their hulls glowing red-hot from the friction. They streaked towards major cities across the globe: New York, London, Beijing, Moscow, and more. In Central Park, New Yorkers looked up in wonder and fear as the alien craft descended, its anti-gravity engines kicking up a swirling cloud of dust and debris. The ship's boarding ramp lowered with a hiss of hydraulics, and the first Zirconian troops emerged. They were a terrifying sight, 9 feet tall, with 4 arms each ending in razor-sharp claws. Their bodies were covered in chitinous armor, and their faces were a nightmare of mandibles and compound eyes. They carried energy weapons that crackled with barely contained power. The lead Zirconian raised its weapon and fired a warning shot into the air. The crowd scattered, screaming in panic. The alien's voice boomed out, translated by its advanced tech. "Humans of Earth, we are the Zirconian Empire, and we claim this world as our own. Submit to our rule, and you may live as our servants. Resist, and you will be exterminated." Similar scenes played out in cities around the world as the invasion began in earnest, but the Zirconians would soon learn that humanity was not so easily conquered. In London, a squad of British SAS troops engaged the aliens in Trafalgar Square, their bullets seemingly ineffective against the invaders' armor. But then one clever soldier had an idea. He aimed for the joints between the armored plates, where the alien physiology was more vulnerable. The Zirconian shrieked as the high-caliber round found its mark, purple blood spraying from the wound. "Aim for the gaps in their armor," the soldier shouted to his comrades. The tide of the skirmish began to turn. In Beijing, the People's Liberation Army brought up heavy artillery, targeting the Zirconian dropships before they could land more troops. The aliens' energy shields flickered and failed under the barrage of shells, and several ships crashed in flames. And in New York, NYPD officers and armed civilians formed an impromptu militia, using their knowledge of the urban terrain to ambush and harass the Zarkonian forces. They lured the aliens into subway tunnels and high-rise buildings, setting traps and using guerrilla tactics to even the odds. Back on the Zarkonian command ship, Vextor raged as reports of unexpected resistance flooded in. "How is this possible?" he snarled. "They're primitives. They should be cowering before our might." Zandera, his second-in-command, studied the incoming data with growing concern. "My lord, it seems we may have underestimated these humans. They're adapting quickly to our tactics and exploiting weaknesses we didn't know we had." Vextor slammed his fist on the command console. "Impossible. No species has ever stood against the Zarkonian Empire. Increase our forces on the ground. Crush their will to resist." As more Zarkonian troops poured from the sky, humanity's defenders dug in for a protracted battle. In her underground command center, General Chen received updates from around the globe. Despite heavy losses, Earth's military forces were holding their own, and in some places even pushing the aliens back. "We've got reports of civilians joining the fight," Colonel Rodriguez informed her. "They're using everything from hunting rifles to improvised explosives. It's slowing the Zarkonians down, buying us time." Chen nodded, a fierce pride swelling in her chest. "That's the human spirit for you. We've spent our entire history fighting each other. Now we finally have a common enemy. And by God, we're going to show them what we're made of." She turned to her communications officer. "Get me in touch with every military commander, every world leader still standing. Tell them to hold the line. Reinforcements are coming." "Reinforcements, ma'am?" Rodriguez asked, confused. "What reinforcements?" Chen allowed herself a small, grim smile. "The ones we've been keeping secret, Colonel. It's time to unveil Project Prometheus." As the first day of the invasion drew to a close, the Zarkonians found themselves in an unexpected stalemate. They had expected an easy victory, but instead faced a species that refused to bow, that fought with a ferocity and ingenuity they had never encountered before. And unbeknownst to the alien invaders, humanity was about to reveal its ace in the hole, a weapon that would turn the tide of the war and show the galaxy that Earth was not to be trifled with. The battle for Earth had only just begun. Underestimation and preparation. As dawn broke over a world at war, the Zarkonian invasion force regrouped. Supreme Commander Vextor paced the bridge of his flagship, his chidnous exoskeleton clicking against the metal floor with each agitated step. "How?" he hissed, rounding on his subordinates. "How have these primitive mammals managed to resist us for an entire planetary rotation?" Sub-Commander Zandera approached cautiously, datapad in hand. "My lord, our initial intelligence seems to have been flawed. The humans are displaying levels of technology and tactical acumen far beyond what we anticipated." Vextor's 4 eyes narrowed dangerously. "Explain." Zandera's mandibles twitched nervously as he brought up holographic displays of the previous day's battles. "Their projectile weapons, while primitive, have proven unexpectedly effective when targeted at weak points in our armor. They've also shown a remarkable ability to improvise and adapt their tactics on the fly." The display shifted to show human civilians wielding an array of makeshift weapons, from simple clubs to complex improvised explosive devices. Furthermore, their non-combatant population has joined the fight en masse. It's unlike anything we've encountered in our previous conquests. Vextor chittered in frustration. "Unacceptable. We are the Zarkonian Empire. We do not lose to pre-FTL savages." He turned to his war council. "Prepare our heavy assault units. We'll flatten their cities if we have to. These humans will learn the price of defiance." Meanwhile, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Sarah Chen was orchestrating humanity's counteroffensive. The war room buzzed with activity as reports and updates streamed in from around the globe. "Ma'am," Colonel Rodriguez called out. "We've got confirmation. Project Prometheus is a go." Chen nodded grimly. "About damn time. What's the ETA?" "The first units will be combat-ready in 6 hours. Full deployment in 12. Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Good. It's time we showed these aliens what humanity is truly capable of." She turned to address the room. "Listen up, people. For the past decade, we've been preparing for this day. Project Prometheus was our insurance policy against hostile first contact, and now it's our best hope for survival." She brought up a holographic display of a sleek, armored exoskeleton, the Prometheus battlesuit, powered armor that enhances strength, speed, and durability. Equipped with energy shielding reverse-engineered from recovered alien tech and weapons that pack a punch even against Zarkonian armor, the display shifted to show squadrons of angular, predatory-looking spacecraft, and the Prometheus fleet, stealth ships with gravity-drive propulsion and weaponry that can go toe-to-toe with anything the Zarkonians have thrown at us so far. A murmur of excitement rippled through the war room. Chen raised her hand for silence. "This is our ace in the hole, people. But remember, technology alone won't win this war. It's the human spirit inside these machines that will make the difference." As Project Prometheus geared up, the Zarkonians launched their next offensive. Heavy assault walkers, each standing 5 stories tall, stomped through the ruins of Earth's cities. They fired devastating energy beams that cut swaths of destruction through human defenses. In London, the Houses of Parliament crumbled under the onslaught. In Tokyo, the iconic skyline was transformed into a hellscape of twisted metal and shattered glass. And in Washington, D.C., the White House itself was reduced to smoldering rubble. But even in the face of this overwhelming force, humanity refused to break. In the shadows of the Zarkonian war machines, resistance fighters darted from cover to cover, planting explosives and seeking weak points. In the ruins of Paris, a team of French Foreign Legion soldiers managed to bring down one of the walkers by targeting its leg joints with precision missile strikes. As the behemoth crashed to the ground, the soldiers swarmed over it, capturing vital alien technology for study. And high above the Earth, a deadly game of cat and mouse played out in orbit. The few human spacecraft capable of combat harried the Zarkonian fleet, using the debris of destroyed satellites and space stations as cover. They couldn't hope to defeat the alien armada in direct combat, but they could disrupt their communications and supply lines. Commander Elena Vasquez, piloting the UES Defiant, led a daring raid on a Zarkonian supply ship. Her small squadron of fighters ducked and weaved through a hail of energy bolts, their hulls glowing red-hot from near misses. "Fox 3. Vasquez called out as she unleashed a salvo of missiles. The warheads streaked towards their target, detonating in a spectacular series of explosions that ripped open the alien vessel's hull. "Nice shooting, Defiant," came the voice of her wingman. "But we've got bogeys on our 6. Vasquez gritted her teeth as she threw her fighter into a series of evasive maneuvers. "All units, back to Earth orbit. We've done what we came to do." As the human fighters fled back to the relative safety of low Earth orbit, Vasquez allowed herself a grim smile. They had bloodied the Zarkonian nose, but the real fight was yet to come. Back on Earth, in hidden bunkers and hastily converted factories, the first Prometheus battle suits were coming online. Soldiers from every nation on Earth, chosen for their skill and adaptability, were being sealed into the advanced armor. Major John Hawkins of the United States Marine Corps felt a rush of power as his suit's systems initialized. The heads-up display flickered to life, feeding him a steady stream of tactical data. He flexed his armored fingers, marveling at how the suit amplified his movements. "All right, Marines," he addressed his squad over the comm. "This is what we've trained for. The Zarkonians think they've got us on the ropes, but they have no idea what's coming." Similar scenes played out around the world as Prometheus units prepared to enter the fray. In Russia, Spetsnaz operatives tested the limits of their new armor's strength. In China, strategists pored over data feeds, formulating new tactics to take advantage of the suit's capabilities. And in a secret facility beneath the Sahara, the first squadrons of Prometheus fleet ships ran final pre-flight checks. General Chen watched the deployment countdown tick away, tension etched on her face. Everything hinged on the next few hours. If Prometheus failed, Earth would fall. But if it succeeded, she allowed herself to imagine victory, to see a future where humanity not only survived this invasion, but emerged stronger, united, ready to take its place among the stars. The counter reached 0. Chen took a deep breath and gave the order that would change the course of the war. All Prometheus units, deploy. Around the world, hidden hangar doors slid open. Armored figures strode out into the war-torn landscape, power thrumming through their suits. And high above, the first Prometheus ships decloaked, their weapons hot and ready for battle. The Zarkonians were about to learn that they had made a terrible mistake in underestimating humanity. The real fight for Earth was about to begin. The battle begins. The sky over New York City crackled with energy as Zarkonian dropships descended, their hulls glowing red-hot from atmospheric entry. The aliens had launched a massive assault, intent on crushing the last pockets of human resistance. As the ships touched down in Central Park, disgorging waves of chitinous warriors, the ground began to tremble. From the shattered streets surrounding the park, massive figures emerged. The Prometheus battle suits, each standing 3 meters tall, advanced in perfect formation. Major John Hawkins led the charge, his suit's external speakers broadcasting his voice. Let's show these bugs what happens when you mess with humanity. The Zarkonians, caught off guard by the sudden appearance of these new combatants, hesitated. It was all the opening Hawkins and his team needed. They unleashed a devastating barrage from their arm-mounted energy weapons, the reverse-engineered alien tech cutting through Zarkonian armor like paper. Hawkins closed the distance with inhuman speed, the suit amplifying his movements. He caught a Zarkonian warrior with a punch that would have pulverized concrete, sending the alien flying back into its comrades. The other Prometheus soldiers followed suit, wading into the fray with a combination of overwhelming firepower and brutal close-quarters combat. In orbit, the scene was no less chaotic. The Prometheus fleet decloaked behind the Zarkonian armada, catching them in a deadly crossfire between the new ships and Earth's planetary defenses. Commander Elena Vasquez, now at the helm of the advanced destroyer UES Thunderchild, led the assault. All ships fire at will. Vasquez ordered, punch holes in their fleet, and don't let up. The void of space lit up with energy weapons and explosions as the two fleets clashed. The Prometheus ships, though outnumbered, proved more than a match for their Zarkonian counterparts. Their energy shields shrugged off hits that would have vaporized conventional craft, while their weapons tore through alien hulls with terrifying efficiency. On the Zarkonian flagship, Supreme Commander Vextor watched in disbelief as his invasion force was thrown into disarray. Impossible, he raged. Where did these humans acquire such technology? Sub-Commander Zandera's voice was tight with stress as he reported, "My lord, we're detecting energy signatures similar to our own tech, but more advanced. It appears the humans have not only reverse-engineered our technology, but improved upon it." Vextor's mandibles clicked in agitation. How? They're primitives. They shouldn't be capable of this. It seems, my lord, Zandera replied carefully, that we may have gravely underestimated their capabilities and resourcefulness. Back on Earth, the tide of battle was turning in city after city. In London, Prometheus-equipped SAS troops used their suits' enhanced mobility to outmaneuver Zarkonian walkers, planting high-yield explosives on their legs and bringing the massive war machines crashing down. In Beijing, the People's Liberation Army, bolstered by Prometheus technology, launched a counteroffensive that pushed the aliens back to their landing zones. The suit's energy shields allowed human soldiers to advance through barrages that would have annihilated conventional forces. And in Moscow, a mixed force of Russian and Eastern European troops used their suits' advanced sensor systems to root out Zarkonian infiltrators attempting to sabotage key infrastructure. The aliens found themselves outmaneuvered and outgunned at every turn. But the Zarkonians were far from defeated. As news of the humans' newfound strength spread through the invasion force, the aliens adapted their tactics. They began targeting Prometheus suits with concentrated fire, attempting to overwhelm their shields through sheer volume of attacks. In Cairo, a squad of Prometheus soldiers found themselves pinned down by relentless Zarkonian assault. Captain Fatima Hassan's voice crackled over the comm, strained but determined. "We can't hold this position much longer. Shields at 30% and dropping." "Hold the line, Captain," came the response from command. "Reinforcements are inbound." Hassan gritted her teeth, pouring suppressing fire into the Zarkonian ranks. Just as it seemed her team would be overrun, the sky above lit up. A Prometheus dropship decloaked overhead, disgorging a fresh squad of armored troops directly into the fray. The battle raged on, a desperate struggle for the very future of humanity. In the war room beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Chen and her staff coordinated the global defense, feeding real-time intel to Prometheus forces and conventional military units alike. "Ma'am," Colonel Rodriguez reported, "Prometheus units have pushed the Zarkonians back to their primary landing zones in North America and Europe. Asia is still contested, but we're making progress." Chen nodded, her eyes never leaving the holographic battle map. "And orbital status?" "Commander Vasquez reports that we've destroyed or disabled 40% of the Zarkonian fleet, but their flagship is proving a tough nut to crack." Chen's expression hardened. "Tell Vasquez to concentrate fire on that flagship. If we can take out their command and control, we might just end this war today." In orbit, Vasquez received the new orders with grim determination. "You heard the general, people. All ships form up on me. We're taking down that alien bastard if it's the last thing we do." The Prometheus fleet regrouped, forming a spearhead aimed at the heart of the Zarkonian armada. Vasquez's voice rang out over the fleet comms. "For Earth." As one, the human ships surged forward, their weapons blazing. Zarkonian vessels exploded in their wake, unable to withstand the fury of humanity's last best hope. On the flagship's bridge, Vextor watched in growing horror as the human fleet approached. "All power to forward shields," he bellowed. "Prepare to." His words were cut off as the first salvo from the Prometheus fleet struck home. The flagship's shields flickered and failed under the onslaught, and Vextor knew, in that moment, that he had made a terrible mistake in underestimating this species. As alarms blared and systems failed around him, the supreme commander of the Zarkonian invasion force realized a fundamental truth. Humanity was not merely fighting for survival. They were fighting for their future among the stars, and they would not be denied. The battle for Earth had reached its crescendo, and the fate of two species hung in the balance. The next few moments would determine whether humanity would fall or rise to claim its place in the galaxy. Turning the tide. The Zarkonian flagship shuddered under the relentless assault of the Prometheus fleet. On the bridge, chaos reigned as systems failed and crew members scrambled to maintain what little control they had left. Supreme Commander Vextor, his exoskeleton scorched and cracked from a nearby explosion, clung to his command chair. "Status report." He roared over the cacophony of alarms and breaking metal. Sub-Commander Zandera, bleeding purple ichor from a gash in his carapace, managed to access a still-functioning console. "My lord, our shields are gone. Weapons are at 30% capacity. Hull breaches on decks 4 through 12. We can't take much more of this." Vextor's compound eyes darted frantically between the tactical displays, watching as more and more of his fleet winked out of existence. The humans, with their infernal Prometheus technology, were tearing through his forces like they were made of paper. In that moment, the Supreme Commander made a decision that would forever change the course of Zarkonian history. "All ships," he broadcast on all frequencies, "initiate emergency jump protocols. We're leaving this system." Zandera looked at his commander in shock. "But my lord, The invasion force on the planet's surface will have to fend for themselves. Vextor cut him off. We've lost this battle, Xandera. If we don't leave now, we'll lose everything. As the remnants of the Zarkonian fleet began to disengage, opening jump points to flee the Earth system, Commander Elena Vasquez and her Prometheus ships pressed their advantage. Don't let them escape, Vasquez ordered. If even one of their capital ships gets away, they could come back with reinforcements. The UES Thunderchild and its sister ships poured fire into the fleeing Zarkonian vessels, their advanced weapon systems overwhelming alien defenses. One by one, the invaders' ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light, scattering debris across Earth's orbit. But Vextor's flagship, despite its heavy damage, managed to limp towards an open jump point. Vasquez gritted her teeth, pushing her ship's engines to their limit as she gave chase. "Come on, you ugly bug," she muttered, "just a little closer." At the last possible moment, as the Zarkonian flagship began to slip into the swirling vortex of the jump point, Vasquez fired everything she had. A barrage of missiles and energy beams struck the alien vessel's engines, causing a cascade of explosions that ripped through its stern. The jump point collapsed, the energies meant to propel the ship to safety instead tearing it apart from the inside out. Supreme Commander Vextor had just enough time to realize the magnitude of his failure before his world dissolved in a blinding flash of light. As the last echoes of the explosion faded, an eerie silence fell over the orbital battlefield. Then, slowly at first, but with growing enthusiasm, cheers erupted across the human fleet's communication channels. "We did it," Vasquez exclaimed, allowing herself a moment of pure joy. "The Zarkonian fleet is destroyed." Back on Earth, the news of the space battle's outcome spread like wildfire through the Prometheus forces and conventional military units alike. The effect on morale was electric. In New York's Central Park, Major John Hawkins and his Prometheus-equipped Marines redoubled their efforts, pushing the now leaderless Zarkonian ground forces back step by bloody step. "They're on the run, boys and girls," Hawkins shouted as he brought down another alien warrior with a burst from his energy rifle. "Let's show them the exit." Similar scenes played out across the globe. In Moscow, Prometheus units coordinated with conventional armor divisions to encircle and destroy the last Zarkonian stronghold in the city. In Rio de Janeiro, Brazilian special forces used their suits' enhanced agility to outmaneuver alien troops in the narrow favela streets, flushing them out into killing zones. But perhaps the most dramatic turnaround came in Sydney, where the Zarkonians had established a fortified position around the Opera House. Captain Amira Chen, no relation to General Chen, led a daring assault, using her Prometheus suit's flight capabilities to land on the iconic building's roof. "For Australia, ya bastards," she cried as she crashed through the skylights, raining glass and energy bolts down on the surprised aliens below. Her team followed close behind, and within hours, the Zarkonian flag that had flown over Sydney Harbor was torn down and replaced with the Australian standard. As the day wore on, it became clear that the tide had well and truly turned. Without support or direction from their fleet, the Zarkonian ground forces began to fragment. Some fought on with suicidal determination, while others attempted to surrender, hoping for mercy from the humans they had so grievously underestimated. In the underground war room, General Sarah Chen watched the holographic battle map with a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. The red dots representing Zarkonian forces were disappearing at an accelerating rate, replaced by the blue of liberated territory. "Ma'am," Colonel Rodriguez reported, his voice hoarse from hours of coordinating the global counteroffensive, "we're receiving surrender signals from multiple Zarkonian units worldwide. What are your orders?" Chen took a deep breath, considering the weight of her next words. "Accept all surrenders," she finally said, "but keep them under heavy guard, and tell our forces to keep pushing. I want every last inch of our planet back under human control by nightfall." As the sun began to set on arguably the most important day in human history, The last pockets of Zarkonian resistance were being mopped up. Prometheus units worked alongside conventional forces to secure alien technology and round up prisoners, while medical teams tended to the wounded of both species. In orbit, Commander Vasquez coordinated with ground control to track down and neutralize any remaining Zarkonian ships or escape pods. The Prometheus fleet had taken losses, but they had emerged victorious against a numerically superior force. As the adrenaline of battle began to wear off, a new realization dawned on humanity. They had not merely survived an alien invasion. They had defeated a spacefaring empire that had likely conquered countless worlds before Earth. In doing so, they had announced their presence to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. General Chen, looking out over the war room filled with exhausted but triumphant staff, summed up the sentiment in a brief speech. Today, we have achieved what many thought impossible. We faced an advanced alien threat and not only held our ground but emerged victorious. But our work is far from over. We must rebuild our cities, heal our wounded, and prepare for what comes next. For make no mistake, the galaxy now knows we're here, and we've proven that humanity is a force to be reckoned with. As night fell on a battered but unbroken Earth, humanity looked to the stars with new eyes. They had faced their trial by fire and emerged stronger for it. The Zarkonian invasion had intended to subjugate humanity. Instead, it had united them as never before and catapulted them onto the galactic stage. The war was over, but humanity's journey to the stars was just beginning. Aftermath and reflection. In the weeks following humanity's victory over the Zarkonian invasion, Earth began the long process of healing and rebuilding. The scars of battle were evident in every major city: shattered buildings, cratered streets, and the husks of alien war machines serving as stark reminders of how close humanity had come to extinction. But amidst the rubble, there was hope. The world had united in a way never before seen in human history, with old rivalries and conflicts set aside in the face of a common threat. Now, that spirit of cooperation persisted as nations worked together to reconstruct and to integrate the advanced technology they had captured from their would-be conquerors. In New York, Major John Hawkins stood atop the partially rebuilt One World Trade Center, his Prometheus suit gleaming in the sunlight. He watched as crews using reverse-engineered Zarkonian anti-gravity tech lifted massive beams into place, reconstructing the city's iconic skyline at an unprecedented pace. "Quite a view, isn't it, Major?" came a familiar voice from behind him. Hawkins turned to see General Sarah Chen, looking tired but satisfied. "That it is, Mom," he replied. "Never thought I'd be so happy to see good old-fashioned construction work." Chen nodded, her eyes scanning the horizon. "We've come a long way in a short time, but we've got a long road ahead of us." "Any word on our guests?" Hawkins asked, referring to the captured Zarkonians. "That's actually why I'm here," Chen said, her expression turning serious. "We've managed to establish communication with their leadership caste. It seems the invasion of Earth was just the tip of the iceberg. The Zarkonian Empire spans hundreds of worlds across multiple star systems." Hawkins felt a chill run down his spine. "Are we in danger of another attack?" Chen shook her head. "Not immediately. The loss of their invasion fleet and the defeat of Supreme Commander Vextor has thrown their empire into chaos. Multiple factions are vying for control, and they're too busy fighting each other to worry about us for now. But eventually, yes, they might try again. Or someone else might. That's why our work is far from over." In orbit, aboard the UES Thunderchild, Commander Elena Vasquez was having a similar conversation with her senior staff. The ship's observation deck offered a breathtaking view of Earth, now surrounded by a mix of human and captured Zarkonian satellites. "The Prometheus fleet did the impossible," Vasquez said, addressing her crew. "We defeated an enemy with centuries of spacefaring experience, but now we need to prepare for what comes next." Her XO, a grizzled veteran named Jackson, spoke up. "Ma'am, what exactly is next?" Are we talking about taking the fight to the Zarkonians? Vasquez shook her head. Not yet. For now, our priority is defense. We're establishing a perimeter around our solar system, using a combination of our tech and what we've learned from the Zarkonians. Early warning systems, automated defense platforms, the works. And beyond that, asked Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka, the ship's young but brilliant science officer. Vasquez allowed herself a small smile. Beyond that, we explore. The Zarkonians' faster-than-light drives have opened up the galaxy to us. There are wonders out there waiting to be discovered, and potential allies to be made. Back on Earth, in a secure facility beneath the United Nations headquarters in Geneva, a historic meeting was taking place. Representatives from every nation on Earth sat across from a delegation of captured Zarkonian officials, including Sub-Commander Zandera, the highest-ranking survivor of the invasion force. Dr. Aisha Patel, Earth's chief xenolinguist, served as translator. The atmosphere was tense, but there was an undercurrent of cautious hope. We wish to negotiate terms for the release of our people, Zandera began, his mandibles clicking nervously. The Secretary-General of the UN, a stern-faced woman named Isabella Cortez, leaned forward. And why should we consider such a request, given your unprovoked attack on our world? Zandera's compound eyes shifted uneasily. Because we can offer you something in return. Knowledge, technology, the location of other spacefaring races, some who might be sympathetic to your cause. A murmur ran through the human delegation. Cortez raised a hand for silence. Go on, she said. The defeat of our invasion force has destabilized the Empire, Zandera continued. There are those among us who have long opposed our policy of conquest. With your help, we could sue for peace, perhaps even reform our society. As the negotiations continued, news of the meeting spread across the globe. Humanity found itself at a crossroads. They had the power to crush their defeated foe, to extract vengeance for the lives lost during the invasion. But they also had the opportunity to forge a new path, one of diplomacy, cultural exchange, and mutual growth. In labs and workshops around the world, human scientists and engineers worked alongside cooperative Zarkonian prisoners, unlocking the secrets of advanced propulsion, energy generation, and material science. The influx of alien knowledge accelerated human technological development by decades, if not centuries. And in orbit, the first true human starship was nearing completion. Built with a fusion of human ingenuity and Zarkonian tech, the UES Odyssey represented humanity's first step into the wider galaxy. As the ship's systems came online for the first time, General Chen stood on the bridge alongside Commander Vasquez and a hand-picked crew of Earth's finest. Ladies and gentlemen, Chen addressed them, her voice filled with pride and anticipation. You represent the best of humanity. Your mission is to explore, to seek out new life and new civilizations, and to show the galaxy who we truly are. Vasquez settled into the captain's chair, her fingers dancing over the controls. All systems are go, General. Permission to depart. Chen nodded, a smile breaking across her face. Permission granted, Captain. Take us to the stars. As the Odyssey's engines flared to life, propelling the ship towards the edge of the solar system and beyond, humanity collectively held its breath. They had faced extinction and emerged stronger. They had defeated a galactic superpower and earned their place among the stars. The Zarkonian invasion had intended to subjugate Earth. Instead, it had catapulted humanity into a new era of unity, technological advancement, and interstellar exploration. As the Odyssey disappeared into the depths of space, one thing was clear. Humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning.